Yeah, I'm doing good. How are you?
Very good too. Very good too. Very good too. No complaints. No complaints.
Good. It's always nice.
Yes, yes. Important. Important. Yeah. You gotta. It's so important how our decision affects how we relate to the world. We tend to sort of fall into this, idea that how we are is somehow connected to what's going on around us, but not really. It's always us
Hmm.
choice. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's very cool. Very cool. Yeah. I was just working on one of the courses, and it's just a couple of lines from the story there that it's part of. And a long story. Anyway, I'll read you what was just right as you came up. I was reading it. It's all we
Oh, okay.
can do. Yeah, it's all we can do really to trust in our own goodness, to completely trust we are fine and well when we are our own impeccable selves, however limited that may seem to us. When we fully make peace with ourselves, we can just be. Then good can come. Then we can relax and have fun.
That's good. Yeah.
We have to trust that we are fine and well when we are own impeccable selves. When we trust
Mm,
that, then it all shifts. It all shifts.
yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like that's the change that I'm going through right now. The word change was really emphasized for me.
Ah,
Uh, and I think that's what I'm learning to do or practicing to do is just trust that I'm always doing the right thing and just be at peace, even
yeah,
though everything feels like going
yeah,
through that change, everything feels very chaotic.
yeah.
Literally just just everything just kind of feels jostled around. Just a mess is what it feels like.
Excellent,
But
excellent.
inside is I'm learning that there's peace in there. You just have to um receive it.
Yes,
Maybe that's a word.
yes, yes. Be open to it. It's not so much
Open.
to receive it, but to be
Yeah.
receptive to it. Which is a
Receptive.
slight
Yeah.
nuance to it. So yeah, to be receptive to it, to trust it. In other words, to
Yes.
trust,
Yeah.
to trust that are, we are okay. We keep trying to learn more, but it's more that we have to really accept what we already are. And when we trust that goodness, we don't know how to apply it always. We don't know specific things, but that doesn't shift away from our inherent goodness. And this we have to
Mm,
trust and not so much worry about our abilities and to do. Those will always be improving and changing and growing. But
yeah.
yeah, to trust on that goodness and trust that you are learning, trust that you want to learn, trust that you desire to learn, trust that learning is important to you, and therefore you will learn. You know. A little bit
Yes.
slow sometimes, huh? But that's the
Yeah.
thing. That's what makes the learning real. Is that slow? We just
Yeah.
learn quickly. We learn in the mind only. We don't learn via application. So this takes a little longer. Very, very, very cool. All right, where were we?
Yeah.
Anything else that went on this week?
Um, two words. So the change was emphasized, and then the word choosing and also fine tuning were also two things that were emphasized with change. And something I heard that really like resonated with me is stop searching, start fine tuning. And we don't, and maybe not for me specifically, but just general, we all like to keep searching and keep looking for something and oh, what's around the next corner? And it just there's excitement in the search or whatever. But really we have all the tools. We just have to maybe sharpen them, fine tune them, maybe
Yes,
look in the garage, see what we have.
yes.
All the tools. So just a good it wasn't anything new. I would just say just a good reminder,
Ah,
like everything that I need is what I have, or I have everything that I need. I'll say it that way. And but some of them need to get sharpened a little bit.
That's
And
it.
um
Exactly.
and that's, I think, where the dictionary of power comes in.
Yes,
I have them all inside me. I just have to write them down and know what I have. And
exactly. And conceptualize them, because
mhm,
it's not just about it's not about remembering, it's about understanding. So when we write it
understand.
down and we give that also, part of the dictionary of power is at some point to write that expanded and extended understanding, to write out what it means to you, and you'll keep adding to those as that understanding of the concept deepens and broadens and expands. So you keep adding to what you understand. What that does, it connects each one of those conceptions to the others, and you build this whole big system of self.
Mm,
You're building yourself, because each entry is like a brick in your house of self. Yeah. So it's a very, very
yeah.
big, so it connects them, and then you get the smallness. Yeah. It's a big deal.
And that's what I'm starting to slowly see, is just how things are connected. It's very intricate. It's very, I mean, it's awesome. But yeah, just I'm stepping into that. Oh, wow. So you start to see the puzzle start forming, and it's starting to slowly make sense once you see, some of the pieces connect. Because at first, when you dump the puzzle out of the box, it's like, there seems no connection whatsoever.
Yeah.
So it's a really good place to be once things start
Yeah.
taking shape. So,
Exactly.
uh,
Exactly. And
yeah,
we start making sense of ourselves.
sense. Yeah.
And that's useful. I mean, there's always these mysteries and stuff we got to work on, and old habits and old beliefs and stuff, and then we got to be on guard against those. So, and misunderstandings, misbeliefs, misassociations, stuff that we think we should do. Those can kind of haunt us a lot sometimes. So, it's all stuff. It's all part of the learning, all part of being more aware. And being more aware is claiming our real self.
Yeah.
So our learning is a claiming. We tend to think learning is new, but also learning is recognition in this case, right? It's
Yeah.
recognizing that moreness, recognizing that fullness, recognizing our goodness, and our moreness. It's really cool. And recognizing our awareness too.
Yeah. I was just going to add something. I just thought of here. Well, I grew up in the church, you know that.
Mm,
And I would say most of my life, or a good part of my at least younger years, being in the church, I was learning about the Bible, about Jesus, about God, about the stories, just about
mm,
everything.
mm.
And we stepped away from church for quite a while. Ryan and I, we had enough information. We just had to
Yeah, yeah,
figure out how that information applies to our life. And now God's calling us back into a different church, not the one we grew up in. But for some reason, we're supposed to be going back to church. And I felt like I didn't need to go back to church because I already know the information. I've memorized everything. And I mean, you always keep learning. You never reach that point. But now it's not about learning, it's about application. All those years of being in the church and learning this and that, I didn't really know. I kind of knew how to apply it, but now that's what I'm being called to do, is application of everything I learned in my childhood. So it's really interesting because it's different now. Learning about versus application of, it's
the
two totally different things. So it's
exactly,
almost, it's
exactly.
not that I'm relearning it, but I'm learning it in a different light. So it's very fascinating because
Yeah,
psychologically, just it's totally different.
yeah.
So that's where I'm at. It's just, I'm just, things are, I guess I'm putting the pieces together with how everything makes sense. And it's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So
It
a lot of
is. It
light
is.
bulbs going off.
Exactly. Exactly. It's amazing when we shift to application,
Yeah.
how much difference that makes. It's amazing. It's amazing. It's amazing.
And I guess just an example, like growing up, okay, well, it says believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and thou shalt be saved. So as a little kid, I prayed the prayer, and all through my young adult life and even in my early adult life, I would always pray, okay, well, if I didn't mean that prayer, I mean it now. The gospel prayer come into my heart. And I was always concerned like I wasn't doing enough, or maybe I didn't mean that prayer deep enough, if that makes sense.
Interesting.
Uh,
Interesting.
and now I'm learning what that word believe means. And you've explained it. It's a trust. So I'm learning what that whole verse, I mean, that's just part of the Bible, but the Bible, it's all connected in there. And so I'm learning how to believe and how to trust and how to change my thinking, and the beliefs that I had that I thought were trust, maybe they weren't. And I have to go back and look at every belief bubble that I have, and really, like I said earlier, just fine tune everything and see how it's all connected and see how it applies to me. Because a lot of what is taught, it's just, the pastor's preaching to the audience, they're preaching to the general, they're preaching to those who haven't heard before. So you have to extract what you're supposed to get out of it. So note taking, oh my goodness. I mean, I'm going to have piles of notebooks. I take my notebook everywhere. I always write down my takeaways. I mean, it's getting crazy.
Yes, yes. But especially in the beginning, there's this big
Yes.
explosion. But it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to keep on at that rate. It's always initially.
Well, true. Yes. Yeah. But
So
it's
just
really
keep that
good
in
because,
mind.
well, thank you. I appreciate that. But I like writing down because it helps me remember. There's something
It's
magical about
emphasis. It
writing.
is, because writing is a
Yes,
very particular emphasis. Your attention has to be on what you write. You can't write without paying attention. It's not possible. So it's very
exactly.
powerful. It's very powerful writing. Oh yes, it is a fantastic, fantastic mechanism.
And
Yeah.
it helps me listen and understand and see what they're trying to say.
Yeah.
Because communication, a lot of people, myself included, sometimes we have a hard time communicating, or we don't know how to. So I'm learning how to communicate. And when you start writing like the main ideas down, it all connects better because there's a lot of fluff. And if you're listening, you can hear what they're trying to say through all the fluff. So it's really fascinating.
It
I'm just
is.
every
It
day I
is.
keep learning.
It's astonishing when we start to get into ourselves, just how much there is. It's
Yeah.
just so fabulous. So fabulous. Just love it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Very
So
powerful. Very powerful.
yeah, it's good.
Expand
All good
ourselves and
stuff.
connect ourselves to ourselves. And that's really important.
Yeah.
Very powerful. Very powerful.
Well, I know you were asking where we left off. I'm getting
Yeah, no problem.
my notes here. I believe it was slide number 12. And it says, what can I align to?
What is anomalous?
What is anomalous? Thank you. Um, my takeaway on that is I can and I desire to align to my higher self, align to my true purpose in life, align to a higher frequency, meaning be in alignment with the frequency of peace, the frequency of love. I can align to a higher calling, a higher level of awareness. Just being more, like I said, in tune. That word came up a few times. And I guess just being in line with, I said this earlier, but my purpose. Why am I here? What am I here to do? I'm here to do something, to be something. And it's interesting, something that kind of along the subject here, I was reading, or I am reading a book, and it was talking about the different frequencies of, well, for example, like the frequency of guilt. I don't have the book with me, but it's in the other room. But guilt, I believe, was one of the lowest frequencies. And it's a
Yeah. Guilt
scale
and
of like,
shame, yeah,
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 and fear is like just above it. But the highest level is 1,000 and the lowest is zero.
yeah,
Zero is
yeah.
pretty much when you're dead.
I've seen that before. It's interesting, but just be a little cautious there. It's when you go into the backstory behind that, it's very suspect.
Yeah,
So
okay.
it's a nice idea, but it's not based on anything for real. So, use it just as a conception idea. And yes, but the actual frequencies and all that, the science of it falls apart when you actually start looking at it.
Okay. Well, I just thought it was fascinating, and I
It is
like
fascinating.
the
Yeah, it is.
just the picture that it paints, and whether there's truth or not, I just appreciated how
Exactly.
it's laid out, because I know when I'm in that moment of peace,
Yeah.
I do, like, my attitude has shifted. It's really a shift in your thinking. For me, that's how I kind of was understanding it. And when you're constantly beating yourself up, you're constantly thinking you're not good enough, you're constantly worried about failure, and the lower um, energies or vibrations, or you can call them really whatever. But when you're stuck in that habit, it is destructive to your mind, and you really, I feel like you go down this path that you can get stuck in really easily, and it's hard to learn when I'm in like a lower level, or when I'm beating
Yeah.
myself up. I'm not really learning what I'm supposed to be learning
Exactly.
because I'm
Exactly.
so focused on my problem.
Exactly.
uh
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
that was just something I just, sometimes I'll write things down. So that was just kind of something that came into my mind. I read that a while back. Um but one thing that else that was emphasized is the verse that knowledge puffs up and it leads to pride, and then
Yeah.
pride comes before a fall. So in that level of frequency, it's interesting because pride is like the tipping point. Once you've
Yeah.
lowered yourself to the frequency of pride, so to speak,
Mm.
after that, all the negative frequencies below that, it's all lower. So now you're on this like water slide. It's like a
Wow.
snowball effect. So
Wow.
when you reach that level of pride, that ego, it's really easy to slide back. So it's just fascinating to me. That's where the tipping point is. And that's like, be
Yeah.
careful, because that's where your ego
Yeah.
takes over.
Yes.
Um,
Yes. Yes.
so humility is required in order to be a leader and to be
Yes.
responsible. So
Yes.
for me to align with my higher self, I need to practice that humility.
Mm.
And I don't
Just
really think a lot of people even know what that means.
no, no, no,
I
no.
don't know if I fully understand it. I'm learning it.
Yes.
But
Yes. So I'm assuming humility is in your dictionary of power. Yes.
yes, it is. I believe it is. I think I wrote it
So
down a while
yeah.
back.
Yes. Yeah. So humility, we can think of it as a real deep, profound appreciation and understanding of the relationship between us and the universe.
I like
We never
that.
forget that relative to the universe, we're insignificant. This keeps us
Yeah.
humble. This keeps us in an appropriate perspective. However, we want to be really sophisticated, and we have to be careful because, like that expression about pride from the Bible, it's
Mm-hmm.
very easy to fall into the trap of excess, right? So we say,
Mm-hmm.
oh, don't be prideful, be humble. But that can be taken. We assume it means the entirety eliminate. We need to have some pride of self, right? So when we
Right.
have real humility, the humility of a warrior says, look, I know I'm not an army. I'm just one warrior. But also, a warrior knows they are not nothing. Very
Hmm.
important. Very, very important, right? Relative to the universe, I'm nothing. But relative to a nothing, I am a lot.
Mm.
So our humility needs to be balanced with appropriate appreciation, awareness, discernment, understanding. Yeah. We are aware
Yes.
of the universe. We are aware of nothing. Discernment says, I'm somewhere there. I'm not in the middle by any means, but I'm not zero either. There's a big difference between zero and me. There's a huge, massive difference between me and the universe. It keeps me humble. But also, it doesn't make me become down on myself, think I am nothing, and I have all of the other problems that come with thinking that you are hopeless and rubbish, and especially that whole sinner logic. This is dreadful. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
Yeah.
this appreciation of ourselves is very important. Yeah. Appropriate appreciation.
Yes. And I think that's what because when I hear, and I feel like maybe a lot of people, when we hear the word humility, we automatically assume that lowly, very low
Exactly.
position.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I had to relearn, and that's why I'm saying I'm learning what it means, because it doesn't mean anything like that. You're not a doormat. You're
Yeah.
actually,
Exactly.
like
Wow.
you said, a warrior.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
that's what I'm learning, because I don't like using that word, because I feel like most people don't know what that means, because for the longest time I didn't understand it either. So, but I use it because, I mean, now that I'm learning it, there's there's power behind it. But you're
And
right.
we want,
It's
yeah, we want to
misunderstood.
unhook from comparisons because,
Hmm.
right, my humility says relative to the universe, I'm absolutely insignificant, right? So if I say relative to zero, let's say I think I'm 100 or whatever number you pick, right, relative to what you were,
Right.
and somebody else around you, they may be a 150 or a 25 or whatever. Compared to the infinity of the universe, what do those differences in the numbers really mean?
Really nothing.
Absolutely nothing. Exactly. If you actually go and measure ants, right, and compare them, each ant is going to be fractionally different to another. Does it matter to us? They all look the same, right? So,
Yeah.
to the universe, we're all ants. So, anybody who has this idea, my comparison next to yours, and they think they're all, hierarchy and all this stuff, it means nothing. You do what you do, and that's it. You fill your role. We all gears in a watch. Take all that watch and open it up, and you remove the tiniest, smallest little cog and gear in there, and the watch stops. Right. So we're all important. In other words, we're all equally important. In a watch, there's not one gear that's more important than any other. So when we start to think of this, I mean that big gear in there can call itself the leader all it's like, but well, the others may think it so, but it doesn't matter. It's just playing a part. It's just doing a role, right? So when we stop comparisons and stop thinking better or worse, we just do what our spot is, wherever we fit in, whatever our role is, whatever that happens to be, we do it. That's it. End of story. It's no better or worse to it. We're just fulfilling a function. That's it. So
Hmm.
this enables us to have that appropriate humility that also enables leadership, because you're just doing okay. It falls on you, or nobody wants to be a leader. You say, okay, I'm happy to do it. Fine, and you do it, because that's the key issue with leadership. Really, it's just that a willingness to do what others won't do. Really, it's amazing.
Mm.
Most of the time,
Yeah.
that's what it boils down to. So you have that willingness. Okay, cool. It doesn't make you better or worse. A lot of times you say, "Oh, why did I take this on?" Leadership can be a very thankless thing.
Oh yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
when we understand this and unhook from it, this is where our humility gets to be powerful. That we don't ever get caught into the trap of hierarchy. This hierarchy is a
Hmm.
dreadful disease. It is a killer disease. It's a horrible business. Yeah. Yeah.
It
Yeah, it
is.
doesn't mean as a leader, you're under task, you've got stuff to do, and say, come, okay, Joe, please take care of this. Mary, do that, please. Okay, well, somebody do that. So it doesn't mean that you don't give orders, but you're dealing with volunteers always. So you're always asking. All right, you're asking in a way that has, some authority to it and some firmness to it, because hey, time is busy. We got to move here, and you're in business mode now. I'm not here to, mollycoddle you, but at the same time, I'm not rude and bossy either. There's a fine balance, So leadership's all about balance, 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 balance.
It is, yes.
It's an exquisite dance. I wanted to comment on that, the prayer to Jesus. Much of Scripture, when we look at it from the gift of doubt perspective, and we start to see that, there are flaws and there are contradictions and all sorts of things going on in Scripture that force us to interpret Scripture, right? So I don't care who you are, you're interpreting Scripture. People want to say, oh, but the Bible says this. Well, for everyone who says it says this, somebody else says it says that. So, well, we're interpreting, right? So
Right.
when you accept this as a truth and say, if I believe you, well, I'm believing your particular interpretation. I'm choosing to believe you. And it's still up to me, which again, I'm making a decision on somebody's interpretation, right? I mean, furthermore, we don't read the scriptures in the original in anyway. You don't read it in Greek in New Testament and in Hebrew in the Old, right?
Right.
Not to mention that especially in the New Testament, Jesus didn't speak Greek, not that we know of anyway. He was speaking Aramaic, not even Hebrew. Yeah. So it's fascinating, So the interpreter is coming from. It's so there's a lot of interpretations going on. So we have to take this into consideration and just be aware that we're constantly interpreting. Now, that point about the Jesus was making a big point though when he said we are all sons of man. So to a large extent, if you really kind of look at what Jesus is saying, is he not saying that we all are Jesus?
Yes.
Yeah. So in that prayer, now does your prayer not take on a whole different meaning?
Yeah.
You
Yeah. It
see what I'm
changes
saying?
everything. Yeah.
Exactly. It's belief in yourself. That belief in no?
Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
And that's like the tipping point where I'm seeing it differently. It was always about growing up. It always seemed like it was about somebody else, this person, Jesus, whoever this Jesus was. And now
Yeah.
it's talking about me and my relationship with God.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah, very fascinating. But yes, it changes everything. It's almost like you're reading a different book when you change your perspective.
Exactly. And it also changes the relationship to God. As much as you are Jesus, you are also God or part of God. So when
Yeah.
he said, we are all sons of man, and the kingdom of heaven is within you.
Yes.
It takes on a bigger significance. Now, keep in mind too, who's he speaking to? He's speaking to uneducated, illiterate people who aren't very sophisticated. He's speaking to the common people in a time. The common person today is a zillion times more sophisticated than the common person back then, right? Because they have a greater access to things and, just with the internet, TV, all the stuff. So you have to keep in mind the problems of communication also that's involved. Yes. Plus, some
Yeah.
of the ideas were fairly radical. When an idea is really radical and mind-blowing, people can't comprehend them. And so they are unable to actually express and communicate them. It's one of the reasons for doing the repeat backs and the takeaways, so that we can familiarize ourselves with new ideas and new concepts and own them and actually become aware of what we were unaware of before. But if we don't, and you can watch this when people come across new stuff, they just latch onto little bits of it, what is familiar to them, and leave out the rest, and they're gonna get it all messed up. So we have to look at everything in this deeper, sophisticated context, and then it's very helpful to be able to pick through, because there's a lot of gold in the New Testament. But when you kind of sort it in this context, then you can extract all that magic. Yeah.
You're right. Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, if I look at Jesus' deeper message, he was really trying to really, really communicate that we are all him or a him. Yeah, we are all a potential Jesus.
Yes. Yeah.
They are all part of God. Yeah. So it's not
Yes.
that he wanted, this was very key, that God isn't a separate thing. If it's like the Trinity, it's part of you.
Yeah. And I'm visualizing like that puzzle. Well, you work on this one section and it's like, oh, this is a section of Jesus. And
Yeah.
all the pieces come together and it seems like not even related. But then when you find those connecting pieces and you start putting that together, you're like, wow, Jesus is me. It just really the light bulb comes on. And
Exactly.
that's what I'm
Exactly.
finding, those connecting pieces where
Exactly.
it's application to me. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Not only Jesus is me, but I am Jesus. Works both ways.
Yes.
Yeah.
Works both ways. Yes.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So now you're starting to pray to yourself, which is cool.
Yeah. Oh, I had something funny that I wrote down about that. Oh my goodness. I wrote it down, but where it's written down it is, that's the big question.
Mm.
But it was something
Ah,
along the lines. I think it might be my phone, my notes, but it was
ah,
something along the lines when you're about talking to yourself. Well, when you're talking to yourself, you're just praying to God because you're God and you're all connected.
exactly.
But I put it in a
Exactly.
humorous way. I'll have to go back and find it. But I just started laughing because I'll talk to myself when I'm trying to figure something out, and then I'll catch. I'm like, oh, I'm just praying.
Yeah.
Really fascinating when you realize what's actually going on.
Most cool. It's most
Yeah.
cool. It's most cool. Exciting stuff. Very exciting stuff. Very exciting stuff. Yeah.
So to wrap up my takeaway, just aligning to my true purpose. That was
Mm.
really what I concluded. And you can align to a lot of things, but for me, what is my calling? What is my purpose? And I
Mm.
want to be in that alignment all the time, every day,
Yes. Yes.
because that's when
Yes.
amazing things can happen.
Yes. So when we look at this, what am I in alignment with? What is anomalous? So to think of alignment and attunement is like the surface out there on the water, and you see them paddling left and right, and a little deeper, a little shallower. They're finding the appropriate spot, right, for
Hmm.
where to catch the wave, right?
Yeah.
Catching the wave is the alignment.
Mm.
Right. So, moving, positioning is the attunement, paying attention. Because look, that surfer, they're watching everything, they're paying attention to what's going on. And then they see where to go and they move. That when they catch the wave, this is alignment, right? So, because they don't have to, they can be in the right position when the wave comes. Sometimes they catch it, sometimes they don't, right? So it's your
Right.
choice whether you do this. All right. So it's important to be aware of this. And so anomalies, you can say, are like sort of a rogue wave in a way, stuff that comes. And sometimes we want to surf those, sometimes we don't. So it's kind of huge when we look at this thing from anomalies in this way, and alignment. What are the forces in your life? What are the waves in your life? And how are they working? See? And
Mm.
then you can decide whether you want to catch those waves and ride them or not. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is important because so often we're not even aware that uh, that there is a wave to catch. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah.
Big deal. Big deal. Big deal.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. A good visualization of
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're
what's
not
going
aware there's
on.
a wave to catch, you kind of losing out big time, no?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, your focus is in
Yeah.
somewhere else. Who knows? Exactly.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we lose out magically. There's so much potent stuff that we can surf to. And if we don't even see it's there, then we just lose out. Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
especially too, if you don't position yourself, that wave might knock you over if you don't get out of the way or duck under it or whatever, right? So it's important to pay attention to these things. Whether you're going to surf it or not, you still need to make sure that you don't get knocked over by it, or sucked under by it.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Very
Yeah, a
powerful.
lot could happen. So just being aware of all the
Exactly.
wind,
Yeah.
just everything. So many variables.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's all I wrote down for that slide.
Yeah.
I can move on unless there's something
Yes,
else
yes.
you
Oh
wanted to
no,
add.
please keep going. Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Slide 13. If I were to anticipate the next moments and from that extrapolate, what do I need to do? I thought about this for a few minutes, and really the answer that came to my head first was just slow down and learn just to be. Be still, be present, be aware, be at peace, be in
Yes,
receiving mode, be listening, be patient.
yes.
I realize that too much of life is focused on doing rather than focus on the being.
Mm.
And I know we've talked about this a lot, but it's starting to really resonate. Um, just know that I have everything I need. I don't need to keep searching. Everything is within me, and I just need to be okay with maybe the craziness going on around me. That's okay. I just have to be who I am meant to be.
Yes.
And I'm learning who I am.
Yeah.
And once you know who you are, well, then you can be you. Because until you know who you are, you're going to probably try to mimic a lot of other people, thinking that's how you're supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can trust yourself that what
Mm,
you need to do, trust that you will know when the time is there because you trust your appropriateness. Now, we keep learning, we keep growing, we keep adding tools to our toolbox. And just trust that when the time comes, you'll reach for that appropriate tool. In the meantime, you keep adding tools, keep learning more.
yeah. 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 And it's not about striving. I think one of my belief bubbles, I know the
Yeah.
prayers that I would say is, Christ did it all. I don't have to do anything. And yet what was taught to me was, well, he did it all, but you still have to do stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
Kind of.
Absolutely. I mean, what's
So it
the
was very, what's
exactly
that?
if Christ did it all for us, what's the point of us being alive?
Exactly. Like, well, he died, he did everything. Like, I don't have to do anything. But that's not the case.
Right.
But it's not a, what's that?
I was just saying yes, yes.
But it's not a striving. See,
Exactly. Yeah.
it's just a being. Well, yeah, there's stuff you have to do,
Exactly.
but it's because you're
Being.
being. And
Exactly.
then,
Being is a doing.
yes, being is a do. I'm gonna write that down.
Being is a doing. Yes. Yes. We forget that. We forget
We
that.
do.
All the difference. When we understand that being is a doing, it's the most profound doing. It takes a lot to just be. There's all sorts of, because when you are just being, what are you doing? You're being aware. You in like on this slide, you're anticipating, you're attuning, you're aligning, right? You're feeling, you're absorbing,
Mm,
you're receptive, you're trusting, you're loving, you're appreciating, you're enjoying. All of that stuff goes into doing, yes?
yes. Yes. Yeah.
Well. So all the things in our dictionary of power, these are all the doings of being.
All the doings of being.
Yeah.
Taking a lot of notes today.
Excellent. Excellent.
I put that at the beginning of my dictionary of power. All the doings of being. So that's my definition of the definitions.
Yes, yes, yes,
We're
yes.
getting crazy here.
Why? I know, because they're the building blocks of you. So whenever you are being you, we aren't just doing nothing. There's even when I am, supposedly doing nothing. No, I'm appreciating, I'm enjoying, I'm absorbing, so I'm feeling the wonder of the
Mm,
world. I'm connecting to the magic, whatever. So we're always doing something. Um, even if it's not a regular doing. So the doing of being is a big deal. So yeah, the dictionary of power, as I said, it's the building blocks of you, of yourself. Powerful.
yeah.
Very, very
Yeah.
powerful.
And I feel like that's something that,
Right.
well, it'll change, but it's
Right.
slowly changing because there's pressure from people to do physically just move. There's pressure to
Exactly.
move around, just look like you're doing stuff when really it's
Exactly.
nothing. It's nothing. But the internal, that doing internal, which is the being, that's really where, that's what you're
Yeah.
saying. That's where things actually happen. And
Brilliant, 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 brilliant. Ah, come on, I was just in the process of screen sharing, and yes, Beena, brilliant. Yeah.
very good.
How Beena? Brilliant, 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 brilliant.
Hello.
Hello, magical Beena. Please do,
Good
yeah, please
morning.
do, yeah. Very cool. Good morning,
My
good
network was
morning.
down, so I was waiting for that.
I figured, yeah, yeah, no
Hi,
problem.
Beena. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing good. We're talking about just well, we just talked about what we can align to, and then now we're talking about what do we
Yes,
need to do to anticipate the next moments. And we're just talking about just being. Being
yeah.
is doing.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
So I just wanted to point something out here while we're still in the fairly early parts of this session. If you pay
Yeah.
attention to the words, you'll see that a lot of them that shifted perspective. Okay, I'm assuming you've got perspective shifting in your dictionary of
Hmm.
power, right?
Yes.
So,
Yes.
all right, well, universe, perspective, abstract, symbolically, to look at things symbolically is very powerful. I'm trying to say that when we look at these, we see, for instance, you see like a line or alignment and anomalies. The ones that are capitalized are dictionary of power concepts. Yeah. So I put them in normally in the noun form. See like alignment or anomalies in the dictionary of power. Because that's the conception. And same thing. See anticipation or extrapolation. Those are very powerful, powerful concepts. Anticipation, when we
Mhm.
really apply anticipation just in our everyday lives, we can see what's coming, what's happening. And like with your kids, if you're watching your kids and you can sort of anticipate, especially with the babies, or they're going to fall over, topple over, vomit, whatever, right? You can catch, yeah. Right?
Right.
So anticipation is a very powerful thing. Now we can apply this to conversations and anticipate, so it's very useful. And same thing with extrapolation. It takes a lot of effort to apply it. It's something that we need energy for, but it's very useful when we do have that. So yeah.
Yeah.
And it's much easier to deal with surprises. But it's just something that's kind of handy. Just pay attention to the capitalized terms, and you'll see. If you want to add them to your dictionary of power, it's very useful.
Yeah, that is good.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, again, you have to transform it. You see, again, perspectives. I'm assuming you have perspective or perspective shifting, spirit warriors. You see, accountability. So yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, very cool. Well, not all of them, but so many of them. There's plenty stuff. Shifting. Yeah, it's all of these are power terms in their own way. So it's useful. It's useful. Yeah. All right, very cool, very cool, very cool. Glad to hear, Beena. Glad to hear, glad to hear. Yeah. And I was all disappointed when you weren't here.
Yes.
So it was my network, and I was waiting here, just sitting that okay, when it
Yeah,
will work, when
Yeah.
it will work.
no problem, no problem. I hope
Yeah.
you were drawing while you were waiting or painting. Very cool. All right, excellent. All right, so let's keep going. Let's keep going. I'm enjoying this, Janelle. It's very cool. Very
Oh,
cool.
good.
Yeah.
That was my notes on 13. So moving to slide 14.
Mm,
Perspective shifting is crucial. Hold on, this is a repeat back. Okay.
yeah.
Perspective shifting is crucial, creating new habits in our thinking continually and asking questions, insisting we can, and
Mm,
being accountable for our thoughts and actions and attitudes. So, what was emphasized in that repeat back is breaking through the barrier of thought or habit.
mm, mm, mm.
Uh,
Yes,
there's that hopelessness you have to break through, that there's nothing we can do. Perspective
exactly.
shifting is key. This is how
Exactly.
you break that barrier.
Exactly. So this particular slide is it's taking a break out of the bigger thing here. So if we go back and say, the question that's being asked is, in a moment, how can I look at this moment differently, right? And this is especially in a situation where we're feeling a bit down, we upset, things haven't been going the way we'd like them to go, we're a bit bummed out, whatever, right? So, and we said, how can I look at things differently? Do I have to feel this way? I don't want to feel this way. I'm not happy. So let me see if I can look at it differently. And then, if we go back to the start of the session here, let's see. It was okay. Moment of now. And it says, how can I look at this moment differently? And then all these questions come, right? What an awesome question. Perhaps ask, where is the gift in it? So all these questions become a means, a mechanism, a tool to say, wow, this is something that I can do differently in this moment. I can say, if I were to anticipate the next moment and from that extrapolate, what do I need to do? Wow, that's very different to what, we typically just sit and do in a moment. Yeah.
Yeah.
We aren't thinking specifically what's coming next. If I extrapolate, what do I need to do? Or any of the questions that have been asked, and there's more coming, right? So this is just to put it in perspective, that we are saying we are breaking the certainty that there's little or nothing we can do. This is a conditioned belief that when we're in a moment and we sort of a bit stuck and we just don't feel happy, we're miserable, or we I don't know, despondent or anything, or even just normally regular, we don't see that there's more. We just sort of accept, it might just not be negative, might just be sort of normal, okay. But we don't realize that there is always more going on around us. We just have to make that effort to shift and ask, what else can I do? How can I look at this moment differently? It's very, very, very powerful, right?
Yeah.
And again, see, it's like this. That's never the case. So learning to shift and see the options is vitally necessary, deeply transformative, and part of a spirit warrior's arsenal of potency. In other words, we can always do more, do things differently. There are always options to choose. We're never really stuck. We're never really limited. We just have to get into this power habit of looking at the moment differently. So this whole session is about training the mind to think differently, to know that there are differences. Look at just this one question that's been asked. How can I look at this moment differently? And each slide, and this is quite a long session, each slide is asking a couple of questions, or at least one of what I can do to be different. So this is a part that we want to train our brain, right? To say, oh, there is never just this one or two or three options. There's always a whole range of them. And to break that certainty that what we see and what we believe is all there is. There's always more, in other words. Yeah. And to develop this flexibility of brain to keep shifting. So we want to get into the habit of looking at everything and looking at it differently. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beena, anything to add?
Oh, it's perfect. Yes.
Yeah. And it's fun too. And then it's part of our creativity. We don't want to be just creative when we are doing something artistic, writing or music or art or something like that. We want to be artistic in all aspects, just in our daily living. When we learn to see all of these options, we can be artistic and creative in choosing whatever it is. And the more we train the brain to see things differently, the more inspired we are, the more creative we are, more intuitive we are. Yes?
Yeah.
Powerful.
Yeah.
It's powerful. Powerful. Powerful.
And then another takeaway I had is learning how to change is why we are here. So that process of breaking the certainty and learning
Exactly.
how to do it is because you can know, oh yeah, this is what needs to be done, but the how you do it is being emphasized because that's the most important step. Well, I mean, you can know all the steps, but if you don't know that first one, like getting started, like, well, how do we do all these steps. It
Yes.
doesn't matter if you have the instruction book or not.
Right.
And then this goes along with what you were saying, learning how to change our beliefs, our habits, our moods, our thoughts, our awareness. And then for me, I was just emphasizing that perspective shifting is a superpower.
Yes.
I know patience is one, but perspective shifting to me is another one, because
Oh yeah.
that will
Oh,
change.
oh, yeah.
That changes everything. How
Yep.
you
Yep.
see and
Yep.
think about something. So
What do we
the
say
how
perspective
to.
shifting is?
What's that?
Beena? I say we have a thing that we say about perspective shifting in wave
Oh.
impeccability. It's that thing we always wanted when we were kids, right, Beena?
Yeah,
What is that?
I'm not getting it.
Perspective shifting is that
Yes.
magic wand that we wanted as kids, yeah?
Oh.
I think like in our childhood, we actually never think about even a magic wand. We just assume that we had in our hand, and then everything just happened for us. So in our childhood, our imagination and our receptivity is at maximum, I guess. Because we just say like, okay, just move my hand like this, that I have a magic wand and I'm doing this and I believe in that. Using the word believe, but this is really interesting that we don't need anything in our childhood.
Perspective shifting is a magic wand. It really is. That's why it's a
Yes.
superpower. Absolutely. It's like thinking it through to the end. It's also another superpower. It's incredible. Really makes all the difference. Yeah. So when we in our daily lives, we don't always think that change is an option. And the more we learn to perspective shift, and like you were saying, to actually do something, to actually shift, to actually change, we need to first realize that this is possible, that there are things to shift to, and then we want to get comfortable with changing, with shifting, with adapting, with this application, that to prove to ourselves that we can change, that we have changed. The more we prove through application that we can do things differently, that we're updating, we're growing, we're learning, the more we get comfortable with learning, growing, updating. And then shifting doesn't become this this awkwardness and uncertainty. We just know and believe we can change, and we change as needed. Yeah, it gets a lot easier, a lot quicker, a lot simpler.
Yeah.
Very powerful, very powerful. Application though, got to do it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And do
Yeah.
it
I
regularly
like,
so we get comfortable with change.
yes, getting to see, that's what I'm stepping into right now, is just being comfortable with change. And I'm feeling the change just even in my life right now. Just things are changing, because I know on the inside things are changing. So around me, things are changing. If you practice long enough internally, it will show up externally. And I guess people call that manifestation or whatever. But I'm getting comfortable with being uncomfortable.
There you go. There you go. And that's a powerful point. This is exactly what capital P practice is. I'm assuming you have capital P practice in your dictionary of power. Yes,
Yes, I do. Yes.
So this is exactly what practice is. It is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. It's being comfortable with being wrong. It's being comfortable with playing the wrong notes. But it's not really wrong notes. Because as I was saying, just I've been using this example the whole week already and last week, that if you're practicing and you're practicing on your violin, for instance, and you play that horrible squeaky screech, you're playing a symphony, you're practicing to play some symphony or whatever, and then it's not cool. But if you're playing the soundtrack to a horror movie, now you want that horrible screech, yes? You see, so when we practice, there isn't any wrong. It's about discovering the range of what is available, exploring up, right? It's exactly what this session is all about. How can I look at this moment differently? When you play that screech, how can I look at it differently? Oh, this would be cool in a horror movie or in a comedy thing or whatever, right? It just depends on the timing and the appropriateness. Nothing is good or bad, right or wrong. It's all about appropriate, right? And so when we learn to think differently, we can now utilize the full range of what that instrument can do. and to play. I mean, take Jimi Hendrix, right? Hope
Mhm.
familiar with Jimi Hendrix, no?
Yes, I am
More or less,
fairly. Yeah.
more or less, right? Okay, so when Jimi Hendrix came along and played the electric guitar, I mean,
Yeah.
he played so many wrong notes, and did all sorts of wild and wonderful things with the guitar that people and blew their minds. It's like, whoa, we never knew the guitar could do this. And he changed a lot because he was capable of seeing how can I do things differently. Well, he applied it to the electric guitar quite radically. So it's amazing,
Yeah.
So when we start to realize this, we expand our options of being, our options of ability. Yeah.
Yeah.
Really cool, really cool. But we have to put it into practice. If we don't practice it, it's just an idea. It's just an idea.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. So practice is the doing of doing things differently and getting comfortable with them being different. So that, yes, you say we get comfortable with being uncomfortable, but after a while, that uncomfortable goes away and it's just a celebration of difference. So practice becomes exploring variety, exploring difference, exploring option. Yeah.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
Big shift. Big,
Yeah.
big, 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 big shift. Big shift. Big shift.
And just being open, growing up religiously, everything was taught black and white, right and wrong.
Yeah.
And this really, the practicing part allows you to see that, well, that's not the case.
Yeah.
I mean, there is this huge, like you're saying, this huge range. And there's
Exactly.
some things that are
Exactly.
clearly,
Yeah.
okay, well, don't kill someone. It's clear. That's clearly, way on this perspective. And then, there's follow God. Okay, two opposite
Well,
ends.
don't kill someone unless they're trying to kill your kids.
Well, exactly. And
There's always
then
an exception.
there's always an exactly. So I have to, and I'm still like, this is a belief bubble that I'm still like, I pop like the big one, and then there's all these little bubbles inside. Yeah.
Yes. The bubble wrap underneath.
Yeah. So it's just
Yeah.
like I'm understanding, but then, oh wow, okay. So there's always more, as you say. But I'm learning like nothing really is black or white. I mean, there's an absolute truth, so I'm not talking
Exactly.
about that, but most
Exactly.
of what we experience is
Right.
there's an exception. There's always that exception, like
Right.
you're
I mean,
saying.
think of it
So
this way. This is one of the horrors of religious training, this a black and white mindset, right?
yeah,
That
yeah,
rigidity. But, as you go along, you discover, well, things aren't always exactly white and exactly black. They kind of merge a little bit. So you end up living in this gray world.
yeah,
Now, I want
yeah.
to ask all those people who have this black and white logic, where the hell did all the glorious colors go to?
That's a
I mean,
good
seriously,
question.
come on.
Yeah,
Who wants to live in a black and white world? Never mind the gray world. No, no,
yeah,
no. Sorry. Come on. Come on. Seriously, especially when you really think about it, there are all these colors, black and white. So this is the whole point of this session. It is to shift out of black and white, to say, what can I do differently in this moment? How can I think differently? Instead of just black and white, we want to go to all the color options, right? That's what I can do differently. I can learn to paint in color rather than live in color rather than live in black and white, and pick from all those colors and use all of them together, as many as I want, only a few, whatever. Choice, choice, choice. We want to blossom our world into the magic of color. Yeah.
And that's originally where we came from before we chose right and wrong. There wasn't either. It was just being, and that's what the Garden of Eden represents. That world of color, that world of just pure choice. There's nothing right or wrong. It's all, everything's just, it's here. It's good.
Exactly. So we do want to be very aware of the limitations of language, right? So we can say, right or wrong, there's colors, and right, good or bad. But really, when we start to look closely, we say, okay, it's bad to kill. But, well, if I'm killing to protect my children, well, then it's good. So we have to just be aware that our language is somewhat limited. Yes. And this is, to me, one of the biggest reasons why this whole everything, wave impeccability, Mourner's project, all of it, it's all built around this. It stems from the concept of appropriateness. right? So because appropriateness transcends all of these limitations, appropriateness is always appropriate. Good, bad, right, wrong, those are always situational, and whatever you think, like killing, it's not always right. But in that situation where, okay, they're going to kill my children, I'm going to kill them, well, okay, now it's appropriate, right?
Mm-hmm.
Appropriateness is what allows you to use these things in the moment as required right then and there, right? So appropriateness transcends the limitations of these conceptions of good or bad, right or wrong. Yeah.
Mm.
Now
Yeah.
we start to see everything. Okay, say take hate. In that moment, you might have a great compassion for human beings and not be able to kill someone, even if they're trying to kill your children, right? Because, well, you have too much love and respect for human beings. So hate comes in handy there a little bit, because you need to do this, otherwise not. See, so I'm just saying it's a tool. Everything that we have, if we consider it to be a tool, it's all about the ability to use the tools appropriately, right?
Right.
Any person who uses tools knows that it's always just depending on what you need to do, what tool is appropriate. Whether you're a contractor, you're in the kitchen, or you're an artist with different brushes, it makes a difference. All ranges of tools, yes. So this learning to think differently, it is expanding our toolbox. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
So when we think of all the old things of good and bad, they're just tools. Yes, something that's labeled as good is something that happens to generally be good, like not killing people. Yeah. But it's not
Right.
always
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Sometimes not
Yeah.
killing somebody is bad. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Exactly.
so appropriateness determines when we use these things. And when we now get into appropriateness, we see there's a capital G good. If I kill the person who's wanting to kill my kids, that's a capital G good.
Mm-hmm.
It transcends. Yeah, it's generally bad, but in that case, it was good. So we have this overall, capital G good. So we have to understand our language is very limited, and this is part of our dictionary of power. We transcend the limitations of language with kind of meta concepts, yeah, like
Yeah.
appropriateness, meta concept. Lets us transcend that black and white, good and bad, right and wrong. Yeah, very powerful. Yeah. I mean, in the end, the whole universe is all good. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's
Well,
all
that's what God
appropriate.
said when He made it, and it was
Exactly.
good. Everything
Exactly.
He made was good. So why would
Exactly.
it have changed?
And in that capital G good, we start to see that, it's about appropriate. And then when we start to connect it to awareness and learning and growth and being more, we say, oh, yes, it's all good. Everything, even the bad stuff in the world, it's there for a good reason. Yeah. I mean, the fact that there is bad stuff is proof that we have free choice.
Yes.
I know I can actually choose to be stupid. Really, for real. I
Oh, yes.
actually have that choice. Yeah, I can
Yes.
actually do it, which means my choices are always actually free. And this is absolutely necessary for awareness. If your choices weren't free, your awareness wouldn't be real. Yes.
Yes.
So if you were to make the world now, would you remove the choice to do bad things, stupid things, evil things?
Well, no.
You can't. Exactly. So you see what I'm saying? The world makes sense. When we look at it
Yeah.
through this bigger picture, appropriateness perspective, we see that badness and evil and all this stuff, it is appropriate. It's undesirable. Yes. It's not nice. Yes. But it is appropriate. It's necessary. Yes. It's necessary because we're in this giant school of awareness. Yeah.
Yeah.
How cool is that? How cool is that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It goes pretty deep for sure.
Yeah. Beena, anything?
The appropriateness, it's a very sensitive also. It's because it has a power.
Yeah.
Because we can actually turn and shift things deliberately the way we want to. Situations for us, and so we need impeccability, have impeccability big time into that, because it's a very powerful tool, and we don't need any justification for that, because if I just choose that, oh, it is appropriate, and if I'm not impeccable in that appropriateness, without impeccability can be really, really dangerous. So for me, it is I just to make the emphasis and make the obvious more obvious for myself that impeccability is the foundation for any power conception, any perspective. Because without impeccability, appropriateness can be big time manipulation.
Yes. Yes. Very important. Very, very important. Very cool.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yep, 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 yep.
So that leads us to my next slide, which is slide 15. And it says, do I need to believe it's different before I act? Can I act without believing? And I answered them, question 1, no, I don't need to believe it's different before I act.
Yeah.
And 2, the answer is yes, I can act without believing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Because this is trust. This is all what trust is about.
Exactly. It's a big, big shift. That's a big shift, Janelle, just in the path of our learning and growing. This ability to say, do I need to believe it's different? No, I don't. And that's very hard for some to do. Can I act without believing? This is almost impossible for some people. They just absolutely cannot take that first step in the dark, even when they know the second step is going to turn the light on. This is why application and self-proof is so, so, so crucial. In order to really practice thinking differently and learning and growing and being able to expand and this trust, we need to make an effort to deliberately take that risk of taking that step in the dark. And then, once you do that and you take the next step, it turns the light on. Do this enough times, you become more comfortable with venturing out into the unknown. And we can shift the unknown as being the scary place to say, oh, I'm moving into moreness. Moreness is exciting. Moreness is fun. Moreness is rewarding. So this is very, very powerful, but it's very important to have this ability. Because when you're in a situation where you are at is not good, but you don't know which way to go, any direction other than where you are at is good. It doesn't matter, right? But I can't see which direction is good. So people don't act because they can't see which way to go. There's nothing to believe in. So they stay in the same rotten, horrible space over and over, year in, year out, all their lives. What a dreadful, dreadful, dreadful calamity of thinking. Yes. And believing. Horrible.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, I take abused women. You see this very often in abused women, right? That they stuck there because they can't see, how am I going to survive? What am I going to do? They can't imagine this, any other. And because they can't imagine, they think it's worse. What's worse than being beaten up every day?
Yeah.
Astonishing. It's astonishing how the fear of the unknown, being unable to act without believing, without seeing something there. Just to say, oh, this is not good. I know this for a fact. Where I'm at, I don't want. Anywhere else is going to be, has to be preferable to this. But they imagine it's worse. They have no trust, in other words.
Yeah.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
And I just went on to say I'm quoting a lot of verses, probably because we've been going to church lately, but it says faith without works is dead. So that trust without doing is dead. And that's where that first step is, like you're talking about.
Just without application is futile.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I wrote a few more notes here. Your action will manifest the change that you desire. So just by taking that step of faith or that step in trust, that will start the process of turning the light on, for example.
Exactly. Take the first step in the dark, second step turns the light on. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. And then I wrote down here, belief and faith or belief and trust are not the same. Belief is linked in your mind. This can change at any time for you or for any reason. But that word trust is linked to your higher self, the ultimate truth. This does not change. It cannot change because it's linked to God who does not change.
Yes. Yes.
And so that's why I answered, you don't have to believe before you act, and you can't act without believing.
Absolutely.
They're going to work together.
Absolutely. Absolutely. The difference here is very big. It's a huge deal. If I believe, by definition, I'm saying it may or may not be. That's what a belief is, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't believe the sky is blue. I just know it to be blue. I don't have to believe it. It just is, right? That's it.
Yeah.
Right? I don't believe what is going to come out of my tap. I open it, comes out, right?
Right.
But I trust that when I open the tap, something is. So trust and belief are very different. And the key difference between trust and belief is that when I trust, I commit. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a big difference. So now, because if I believe that I can fly, well, fine. Okay. If you believe you can fly, jump off the cliff. It doesn't happen. Right?
Yeah.
If I trust that I can fly, I do jump off the cliff. Big difference, right?
Yeah.
I mean, if our belief is so strong that it results in trust, then we do. But then also we have to be very careful here, right? If I believe I can fly, or I trust I can fly, if I have to believe I can fly, if I'm forced to, then I jump off the cliff with full trust that I will fly. So there's a range and a point where they do somewhat overlap. But it's important to understand the difference that, trust is an action and it's a commitment, and you're taking a risk when you trust. So be sure that if you are going to be jumping off cliffs, that your trust is founded on something real. And that's where impeccability comes into this, right? We can believe things we want to because they're convenient, they're nice, right? I want to fly, fine, right? But if I'm really now going on trust, the only time that I actually trust is when I have to. My impeccability says, can I actually fly? I've checked this out. I've tested it. I've jumped off little low things. I've done everything that I can possibly do to research this idea that I might be able to fly. However, if I got a horde of zombies chasing me, well, all right, now I have to trust that I can fly jumping off the cliff. I don't want to be eaten by the zombies. Yeah.
Right.
So, there is a point, all right, still may not work, but still, who knows? Sometimes trust can be a power that actually changes reality when it's so extreme. But if you have no choice, then you trust, and you trust impeccably. But you don't trust without being impeccable first. That's just foolishness, no?
Right. Oh, yeah. And that's where the self-proof comes in, is it's those small little wins. Like, okay,
Exactly.
this happened, and it was just
Confirmations rather than wins, yes.
or excuse me, confirmations, yes. But when you look back and you see, and there's been self-proof that you can trust. Well, I trusted in this small little area, and look what happened. Wow, that really went well.
Exactly.
And then it builds. And when
Exactly.
you have to jump off that cliff, well, why wouldn't it work? Everything so far has worked out for good.
Exactly. And one thing to really, really develop is to trust our ability to be appropriate, even when we don't know what to do, right? So you step into a new situation, I don't know, let's say whatever, some new situation, some new business meeting that just was called on the spot or whatever, I don't know. And you trust your ability to be appropriate in the moment. The more we practice that, the more we start to rely on this. Why? Because we know when we trust and we open and we're not fretting and stressing, what am I going to do? And we're not running. We open and we're receptive. Things come up from inside us. Things come from outside us to fill in. That tool that we need appears in our hand, even if we didn't know we had this tool. Yeah. We'll create the tool in the moment. So trusting our ability to be appropriate. This is a very, very, very big point. Very, very big point. Yeah.
That is good. Yeah. I'm writing that down.
Huge, huge, huge.
Yeah. And a lot of times when you doubt, that's when it gets blocked.
Yeah.
That doubt, and then not trusting it.
Exactly.
It doesn't allow it to come up from inside.
And fear and anxiety and worry and
Yeah.
stress, all those things, they
Yeah.
suck your energy. And that's why impeccability is so huge. When we have things that suck our energy and our attention, we don't think properly. We get consumed in bubbles, and then we act like fools and idiots when we get caught up in bubbles.
Yeah.
We get sucked in by stuff. So, that ability to not get sucked in, and to have that ability to power pause. This is very, very, very key. Big skill.
Yeah.
We get caught unaware sometimes, and then we get sucked in. It's useful to develop the ability to also recognize when you are sucked in, so that you can kind of get yourself a little bit out. Oh, I'm at the bottom of the ocean, I better start swimming towards the surface. So it's a useful skill. It's a useful skill. It takes a lot of doing, and it's not easy, because we can get caught up in bubbles. Bubbles of all sorts of things, bubbles of sorrow, grief, annoyance, anger, irritation, all sorts of stuff, bubbles of disappointment, all stuff like this. So it's very
Yeah.
powerful, very powerful. Yeah. So just to be aware, and that's why the anticipation is such a power term. If we can get into the habit of anticipating, sometimes we can see that stuff coming. All right, sometimes it still catches us by surprise, but not to be put out too much. You can survive the stuff. So, and you learn from it. Every time you go through something, you learn, you grow, you develop your ability. You really start to see, oh, I need to remember to recognize. And then after a while you do, and then you pop out. So yeah, it's useful, powerful, but sometimes it's slow. Just to be aware.
Yeah, that anticipation, I was just pondering that, and yeah, it's very important. And oftentimes you can, and you're right on, and it's weird. It's almost like plays with your mind. You're like, because I was anticipating this and thinking about it, is that what caused this to happen? You start to like,
you're
did
not
I?
sure. Exactly.
You start getting confused a little bit. But when you're not, but sometimes it really, people might do something unexpected. And when you're not anticipating, or maybe, you might have been distracted for whatever reason, you just didn't anticipate. Well, that's when you really need to kind of hold your ground. You can get shaken, or I can get shaken easily. Well, I wouldn't say easily, but yeah, it happens. And then you just really have to like, oh, hold on. You just have to regain what you're doing. It doesn't happen that much, fortunately, but sometimes it is hard to anticipate. And I think maybe just being around specific people too. Okay, this person's a little, like anything's possible. So it kind of makes you a little more aware. But
surprise is a big part of this. The surprise is definitely something for for your dictionary of power. I mean, not only do we want to set the intent to surprise ourselves, because then you're stretching. Every time you surprise it, wow, that's cool. And we grow, we acquire new magical tools we never had before. That's surprise, right? Very cool. But also we want to anticipate surprise. In other words, we want to anticipate the unexpected. When you're ready for a surprise, it's not as surprising. You don't get sucked into a bubble. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
So particularly with our interactions, when we get complacent a little bit and we stop expecting the unexpected, that can kind of, jump on us and get us caught up in a bubble.
Yeah.
Very
Yeah.
powerful.
It's easy to get complacent, for sure.
Exactly. Very cool. Very cool. Beena, anything? I like hearing from Beena.
I do too.
I'm just saying that it is all interesting. And anticipation is really something really can be really handy, and also can work as a safeguard. As if we see people, some typical traits in people, and get this awareness. But yes, if they are behaving in that situation in that way, so that can be a repeat, and this can prevent a lot of friction in the communication and the stress and all these things. So anticipation is really a big deal. Yes.
Yeah.
Very big deal. Something to practice. And, dealing with surprises, dealing with the unexpected, it just takes practice, and sometimes you have to go through the unpleasant to learn how to anticipate and deal with it and be able to recognize it in the moment and shift out of it. Those bubbles, sometimes you need to be caught up in a bunch of them to learn how to really recognize and get out of it in the moment. Not even, sometimes you can't anticipate. So we need to practice when we do get caught up to immediately shift out of it. And that's a big deal, to practice that mood shifting and that habit shifting, that mindset shifting, that attention shifting, and just letting go. Sometimes, it's hard, but it's a good thing to practice. It's difficult. Very cool. Let's go to the next one.
All right. Let's see here. Let me turn the page. We're on slide 16.
Mm.
What do I need to change in myself to make the moment what I want it to be?
Mm. Mm.
Well, my takeaway is every moment is different. So really based on the moment, that's when I'll know what needs to change, whether it's my belief, whether it's my mood or attitude. I may need to change my thoughts or perhaps maybe even zoom out to see the big picture. But in the moment I was writing this, I said, but right now I don't need to change anything. At this exact moment, I'm in the present. I'm doing exactly what I need to be doing.
Nice. Yes, sometimes we don't need to change anything except maybe change our appreciation of the moment.
That's a good one.
Right?
I'll write that down.
Because right in that moment, you said, well, I don't need to change anything. But a moment before that, you weren't appreciating that the moment was perfect. Yes?
Right.
Yeah.
But oftentimes, and that was just when I was writing and I was just in a really good state, which this is what I'm supposed to be doing. So of course I'm going to be in good state. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. But oftentimes when I'm not writing and doing my, my way of impeccability, the kids are there and there's always mood or attitude shifts, whether it's for me or for the kids, or there's just always something, there's so much activity. But I know oftentimes it's my thoughts that do need to shift.
Yeah.
And those thoughts are based on beliefs.
Exactly. And those beliefs are associated and connected to feelings. And the one reinforces the other. Yes. The feeling belief spiral or circle, they can really be a trap. Because we believe, and that belief, the belief is associated with, if I believe this, I must feel this. And then our belief becomes true and real because it's supported by a feeling. Well, I feel it must be real. It's a trap. It's a big trap, right?
Yes, feelings are deceptive for sure.
Especially when they are associated to beliefs. They are very,
Yes.
very, very deceptive. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
And even just certain aspects. I know, Beena, you're really into astrology and I'm learning about it, so I'm appreciative for it. But there are certain aspects, like when something squares, like perhaps, the moon is in a square, the moon rules your emotions, and you really have to change, like make it an obvious change, go overboard almost, because there's aspects working against you. So, I mean, it's not really against you, but maybe it's testing you in that area. So like when there's a big T square or whatever. So I'm learning that there are outer forces or outer, just outer, beings, you can call them, or energies, you can call them anything. And they're not there to hurt you, even though they look dark and evil. They're actually there to fine tune you. And I've noticed that a lot of times I'll be in a very good space and then the neighbors are yelling, or, someone's honking their horn, or just anything. It could be anything. or someone will walk in with a bad attitude. Something's there to see, well, are you going to stay in that, or are you going to get sucked away into this other attitude trying to impose on what's going on? That's what I've noticed. And it's just to test you. Well, you can be in a good attitude when things are going really good all the time, but that's not how life works. So it really puts you to the test there. See how well you're practicing it.
Yes, what I have observed, okay, it is just my personal understanding that whatever we act on and project in our physical world, something already hidden in our subconscious mind or even unconscious mind also, that it is there, already there. What happened when, there are different mediums, okay, it could be astrology also or anything else. And else, some people say that, okay, your hormones play a big role in your mood and all these things. Some people, because they have this understanding. So astrology is one of them, which might be very accurate at some point, and can be totally nonsense in some other situation. It's
Yeah.
about a skill, yes. So when these things, these type of like, okay, if a T square or a conjunction or an opposition is being happening in the skies, I feel that it just impact on our way of perceiving thing and thought process. Sometimes we get more left brain, and sometimes we get more right brain. And this is how and this being more right brain or more left brain impact our decision making and our control to affects our control to hold our verbal communication or physical actions in the world. So, and this is how things and situation changes in our surroundings. Like yesterday, it wasn't today also that it is Moon in Scorpio. It affects women big time. And they get more vocal about things, and they just say that whatever they don't want to even say to other people. And people say that if a secret comes out, because we don't have much control on our emotions. It is not like someone will do the conspiracy for you. It is like you will have less control over your emotions because it was a full moon and your emotions were really high, and then and it was in a Scorpio, so hidden things and from subconscious comes out. You say things that you don't want to, and you will not in normal situation. So saying bad words about someone or saying a harsh realities or facts to someone, and which you never actually have any you don't believe in that, but you know that these are the things, and you just share with someone which you don't want to, and you're like, oh my god. So these type of things affect people. I personally feel that it is more because of our left and right brain thing, because our thought process shift, not necessarily from planets only, it could be anything. But yes, these type of things happen. And then this control, yes, you were in a good mood, suddenly someone just bring up something and you get triggered by that. It is, again, I'm just saying that it is not trigger, it is something already, it was there. And you just lose your control to not say things, not respond in that particular way, because of high intense energy you had in your body, in your mind. So we just lose control over your mouth and start saying things, and then things get aggravates.
Is it the time now? I saw a post somewhere something that last night was like the fullest moon of full moons.
Yes, it was pink supermoon, or sorry, full moon in a Scorpio, and Scorpio is about hidden things, and moon mostly rules woman and subconscious mind, and and when it is in that situation, it is like wow, burst out. Big time. Yes, so this happens.
That explains a lot. That explains a lot.
Yeah.
Very interesting, Beena.
Yeah.
So mostly people in that, some people say that people get lunatics and all that, because their decision power gets a bit affected from their right to left and left to right brain. So they just behave accordingly. They get a bit more emotional instead of being more rational.
Mm.
And we all
So
get
what-
influenced at some point, so it's not a big deal.
What's that?
I'm just saying that we all get influenced from something, like, okay, not
Yeah.
necessarily from planets, but we all get some sort of external influences or on our emotions and our perspective and decision making and choices. So it could be anything. I cannot just pinpoint any one thing into that. So there are so many influences from external. You might be thinking a lot of things and you're just trying to ignore it, and then, but you were trying to ignore it, not getting the resolution of it. So it is already there. It is just sitting inside your mind, and I start saying things. Oh, you are this, you are this, you are this, and then putting out things like, okay, you mentioned about your neighbors. Your neighbors are always like that. Suddenly they do something which you might ignore in previous situation, might have ignored, but now you said like enough is enough. Like what they're doing.
Yeah.
So you just lose your control. They were just exaggerating the things they used to do in the past, but this time it was like, oh my God, now it is over the edge. And you said, now enough is enough. So it is, this is how things happen. Whatever people say about other people, I'm saying about other people and other people saying about me in any situation, it is already there, hidden. It was there, and they were just thinking like that. And that sometimes situation just comes and triggered, and they start saying things, and I start saying things about them. So we need to just pay attention to that. The things are just not coming out of nowhere. It was there, but okay, not resolved.
So yeah, deep in the subconscious is why it's coming out, because you have to deal with that's been hidden.
Exactly. So it's a good thing to get a perception, clarity, and about that. Okay, how other people perceive you. If they are saying things, then okay. Good thing, as Ursula always say, that there is always some gift in that. So you get more clarity about that, how they think about you. It's good.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of, I was just going to mention, and this is Pluto's retrograding, I believe, today. So now this is about destruction and then rebirth. So I was talking about change earlier. This is with this full moon, it's bringing a lot of things out into the light. And then now things that don't need to, that are more destructive for people's nature, that's going to all be taken out. So if you don't have a firm foundation, or if you're not on your path, it's you're going to see a lot of destruction, because that now Pluto, since it's retro, and this,
Yes.
it's really going to make a lot of changes, especially internally in people. Take out the old and bring in the new, what they're supposed to be doing, or something that's more positive for them.
Yes, it is because we have a different association with these words, like, okay, with these planets like Pluto and destruction and death and all these things, destruction and demolishing and all that. If we just shift a bit of perspective here, practice perspective shifting, and also making a new association, destruction and demolishing and death can be of, like, okay, when we do our cleansing, for facial cleansing, or get rid of facial hair, is also getting rid of. It's a destruction, but in a different way.
It's really harsh.
Yes, when we plant when we plant trees, we actually dig soil and then bury it inside that. It is also that process of just getting rid of something and pulling in something, like, okay, but getting something out of it also. So it is about destruction, but we can make some new association. Like destruction is also when we rearrange our furniture, when we shift, when we clean our home, when we do vacuum cleaning. It is also a part of pulling something out of it. So, but yes, it is more on intense level also. But if we can perspective shift, we can get value out of it more than that. This is something
Mm,
really amazing, because yes, Pluto or any other planet can be in retro, and there's always someone in retro, and there's always at some point of your chart something is not in a good mood. I can say that. So we can use it and leverage it, if we
yeah.
make a new association, and if we just perspective shift. Like, okay, yes, Pluto is in retro, and it is in my sixth house. It is about health and all daily routine and all that. Okay, I can restructure it or redesign my house drainage system. I can
Yeah.
clean that, so it will shift that energy, or I can just pull out the old carpet and fix the new tiles there, or do something like this. So it is
Yeah.
just to shift the energy.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good reminder. The words I
Yeah.
use are they're very harsh, and really, I guess Pluto is about rebirth. I didn't mention
Yes.
that part, and that's more the positive. I have a lot of Scorpio in my chart, so I like to focus on the dark, and it's like, no, you don't have to. But you're right. It's a very good reminder, like the planting and doing all that. Um, yeah, it's everything has a purpose and a meaning, and it's all for good. It's all to help us practice and grow.
Yes, and
So
also we can practice our perspective and concepts from way of impeccability into that. Even if it is
absolutely,
astrology or anything, we can just, okay,
absolutely.
yes, how I can shift my perspective here, and how I can make new association. This
Yeah.
is something really magical, because it's all about interpretation. Still always say that he is not into astrology. So he said that, okay, I can be anyone, any planet, or any star, or anything, whatever you say, and he is right into that, because we all have 12 houses. Where all the planets are sitting. So if you are a Scorpio in your personality, but you can be, if you're, just suppose that if your Venus is in your fifth house, you'll be very loving and nurturing towards your kids. You will not be a
Mhm.
Scorpio for them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
this is really really amazing. And you, if in seventh house, if Mars is there, so Ryan would be in trouble. You will be really, really
Right.
so there are different things and different aspects. So it's not like fixed thing. And I really appreciate Sil for this, because he mentioned that I can be this, and it wasn't fun. But later on, when I was thinking that, okay, we all have the same chart, we all have the same 12 houses, we all have the same planets. It's just
Yes.
different combinations and different placing. So if I am a
Yes.
Leo in my fourth house, like in my house, I'm a Leo, but I can be a really meek and really chill and airy in my 11th house with my friends. So I
Yeah.
would be really dominating in in my home, but I would be really chilling with my friends, because Mercury is there. So it is like that.
Yeah.
Just a
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. And I see it too, like looking at the chart. Well, this is what your natural tendencies are to do. You don't have to do that. You can change. You
Choose.
can do something or choose to do something different that you normally wouldn't do. And that's sometimes how I look at it. Well, this is how I naturally am, but I could choose to be different. Now I'm gonna have to practice it more, because
Yes.
it's going to feel uncomfortable at first and maybe
Yes.
unnatural, but I still have that choice, and I'm constantly reminded of that, like, okay, I can feel these types of energies around me. I don't know where they're coming from, inside of me, outside, like I don't know, but it's giving me the opportunity to choose how I respond. So that's how I'm learning to see things. And it's a good reminder. I appreciate what you're saying, because it's a good reminder of, well, it doesn't matter where they're coming from. Maybe it's something I have to deal with that's coming out, but I still can choose to do something different.
Exactly. Exactly. I can still choose to do something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the magic, to really, really know that, not as a belief, but as a fact.
As a fact, yeah.
Through proof. We need to prove it though. We need to really, really prove it to ourselves, right?
Yes.
But it's a fact. It's a proven fact. Yeah, yeah. Very important. Very, very important. Very, 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 very important and cool.
One thing that I am realizing is it takes a lot of energy to be aware. It's harder to be aware when you're tired. It's harder to be aware when
Yes,
you have too
yes,
much going on.
yes, 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 yes.
So I'm being reminded energy management is very important, and just slowing life down as much as possible so that I can, if you have too many things going on, well, you can't manage all of them very
Yeah.
well. You can manage them, but it might not be as well as you want it to be
Yes.
managed.
And
Um,
and part of that energy management, something I need to really work on more, because I'm kind of usually quite capable of being able to function with low energy, is to recognize, to practice recognizing when our energy is low, not when it's empty,
mm,
but when it's
mm,
low. Yeah, because like I said, to practice all of these things requires energy. But we
mm-hmm,
tend to think I can function when my energy is low, and I really can. I can function really well when my energy is low. But I need to understand that it doesn't give me that cushion to deal with the unexpected, with surprises, and then you get hurt.
exactly.
So you
Yes.
can't, when you start to get low, it's
Yes.
too late. You always need to be in your medium to high energy range, right? And when you
Yeah.
drop in that, then you've got to say, okay, now time to retreat, go back, and do things which are lower energy activities. Like reading or whatever. And even then, you need your energy. So you really always need to be in your good energy. Yeah. So we have to change
Yeah.
when we start to rest. You see what I mean? Change
Yes.
the criteria. Most people rest, especially busy people, when they on empty. Never mind low, but we need to
Yeah.
start to rest when we're on kind of medium already.
Yeah. And I think this is one of the main reason I have kids, because they have made me very aware of where my energy levels are at. Something
Yeah.
I was not aware pre-kids. And they know when, we do at some point during the day, we have free time. And
Mm.
they know what that means. That means mommy is low on energy and she's
Wow. Wow.
relaxing and meditate. That's how I gain
Yeah.
energy. I
Yeah. Stay away
actually,
or get smacked, in other words.
what's that?
I say stay away or get a smack. That's the
Right,
time.
right. Well, it'll usually be when I put a roar down for a nap. Okay. And even if I don't feel low on energy, 9 times out of 10, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm going to top it off. I'm going to do the top off because Aurora's asleep. She's taking a nap. This is the only chance I have during the day, usually, to for me to recharge. And so, okay, Pearson,
Yeah.
Juliet, you can finish your school or you can do free time. You have an hour. And what you do with that hour is up to you. You can do your homework, which usually isn't the case. You can go
Yeah.
play in the yard as long as you stay, in the yard, that's okay. But they know the rules for that. But I have learned that I have to take care of me.
Yes.
And
Plus, you can't take care of them. Yes.
I can't take care of them. No one can take care of me except me. I'm the mom is the glue. And I mean, maybe the dad isn't sometimes, but oftentimes, at least in my family, and I know me, we're the glue. And if the glue starts not being sticky anymore, because it's too tired or whatever, that's when the problems are. So, but I'm just, yeah, I appreciate, what you're saying, and you too. So, but it's reminded me that energy management, my kids have helped me learn to fine tune that. And I'm getting better. I still have to work at it, of course, but I'm getting a lot better before I'm out of energy. So that's the key, what you said, before you run out. So yeah, you have to have a little like dial there when you start to see it hit the yellow. Okay. We got to change what's going on here. So
Most excellent. Most excellent.
I just looked at the time. Wow, it's almost 8 o'clock.
Is that time
I wrote,
already?
I know I'm glad I checked it. I can't even believe it. That's crazy. We have about 11 minutes. It's 7:49.
It's all fun, so it don't really matter.
um, well, I guess I'll just wrap it up here. The last slide that I did was slide 17. And this is,
Okay, perfect.
so this is actually perfect timing because this is the last one I got to, but am I
Wow.
assuming, am I assuming full responsibility for all the decisions I made, which brought me to this exact moment? I can honestly answer yes now. There is most of my life, I couldn't even say that. But I wrote down, this was a huge breakthrough for me. I used to have a different mindset. I used to believe I was a victim. I used to not be able to take responsibility for all the decisions that I made. I used to believe that everything happened to me rather than for me. And I had to change a lot of my beliefs and a lot of my thinking. This required popping many belief bubbles that have been there since childhood. I had to tear a lot of walls down, and I had to allow a lot of healing to take place. So just a simple answer, yes. There's a lot behind being able to say that for me, because most of my life I would not be able to answer that.
And that's not always easy. Because sometimes to say, I made
No.
decisions which brought me in, those were sucky decisions, weren't the smartest, or they didn't work out
Yeah.
as planned, or whatever, and or just the decision to pursue awareness. That decision is going to, when we explore awareness, part of awareness is becoming aware of awful truths. So hey, I just have to say, well, I just got to deal with it. I just got to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But it is powerful though, because when we assume full responsibility, it's also empowering, right? To say, yes, I chose this. So there we go. I chose it. That's it. And the story. It turned out the way it turned out, and I assume there's some gift in it, and I'm going to learn and grow and deal with it and go more and transform the awful truth into the awesome truth. And that's it. So it's empowering to assume full responsibility. You're not a victim. You're the one in charge.
Exactly. Yes. Yeah. And I chose it for a reason, to get me to here. And that's what I'm recognizing, is that everything worked out for me. And it doesn't matter how those feelings are associated with it. I could feel that I made the wrong choice, but I didn't. Sometimes those feelings are deceptive, and I have to make peace with everything that I made, because I'm here right now and this is where I'm supposed to be.
Exactly.
And that it took a lot for me there's a lot, like I said, there's a lot of belief bubbles I had to pop just to even recognize that. So
very, 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 very cool. Yeah.
So I guess I'm moving in the right direction. All that said, I'm going the right way.
Oh, yes. That's the key. When we recognize that, even when we feel like we had a setback, if we focused on learning and growing, there is no such thing as a setback.
Exactly.
Always
Yes.
learn. So
Yeah.
it's important. It's what you learn, and this, how can I think differently? Sometimes we see it as a setback, and we don't always realize what it is that we are needing to learn and what the gift was. So this ability to see things differently, we see the hidden gifts, or we learn to recognize the alternative learning, the other options, the new awareness, the new attitudes, new mindsets, or new reminders, whatever. It's very, very, very powerful. And so that's why this particular session is incredibly, incredibly necessary. Learning to see things differently, to not accept the way things are just because they are, and we can't see an alternative. Just if we can't see an alternative, we're not looking hard enough. That's really the bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. And one thing that helped me perspective shift is knowing that all the roads would lead to right now. no matter which path I chose, they would all lead to here, but I have the choice. Well,
Exactly.
which path do I want to take? Is it this one that's super
Exactly.
rocky and kind of crazy and a lot of twists and turns, which is oftentimes the path I've chosen? Well,
Exactly.
it led me to here. And same with that straight, smooth path. They all led to here. The scenery was different and I
Yes.
wanted a different scenery.
Yes. So it's the difference between the paths really gets determined by a simple thing, whether we deliberately choose to learn, choose to be more aware or not.
Mhm.
If
Mm,
we don't deliberately choose, we get forced onto a path.
yes.
Yeah. All right. So think of
Yeah.
your kids. If your kids were to come to say, "Mommy, what do I need to learn right now?" You would like, "Oh, this, that, and that," and you'd be all thrilled, right? And you would find them nice, gentle, happy ways of learning this, no?
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
But if they don't learn and you constantly have to kind of force them into it, well, that's not fun for them or you. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But if they don't learn, you have to kind of press them to learn a bit, no? You have no
Yes.
choice.
Oh, yeah.
Life is
Yeah.
the same way.
Exactly.
So the joy of the path is determined by our willingness to learn and our eagerness to learn and our earnestness when it comes to learning. So when we are focused on learning or motivation acquisition, it's why that module, the previous one, session module 1, session 3, is all about the motivation of our lives being awareness. When we are motivated to be aware, we deliberately choose to learn, and when we deliberately choose to learn, we end up on the path of gifts.
Mm,
Yeah. If we don't choose to learn deliberately, we end up on the path of smacks. Either
yeah.
way, we learn from the universe's point of view.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
One's a little slower than the other and a lot less fun, but you still learn in the end. So
Yeah.
that's the
Exactly. Yeah.
so
And
deliberately choosing to learn. Huge, huge, huge,
and when
huge.
you don't choose and it's chosen for you, the scars that it leaves behind, you remember that. So the next
Exactly.
time, oh,
Exactly.
you know what? Maybe this one, let's try this path.
Exactly. Now there are
It really,
exceptions.
there's
Yeah.
always exceptions.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Right. And I mean,
Always.
the exceptions are the anomalies, right? Because,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah.
I am eager to learn, but something is so far outside my experience that the
Hmm.
only way that it can break through my bubble is with some intense pressure and something anomalous, something unusual, something that doesn't compute, something that doesn't make sense. And this is really cool. So when we start to pay attention to anomalies as learning gifts, it's very, very, very magical. Very, very, very magical.
Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like when
Uh,
you, oh,
Cheryl, come join us. You were saying, Janelle, Karen, Cheryl,
it's almost like when you jump to another level, like within a level, your awareness is at a certain level, you can choose and like, oh yeah, this is the easy one. But when you advance maybe to the next level, it's there's such a transition there. You might not have the awareness to know the easy path, so to speak. You know what I mean? It might be such a big jump that's where the
exactly,
anomalies come
exactly,
in. It's like, okay, we need some force behind
exactly.
this um to keep you going so you don't
Yeah, yeah,
try
exactly.
to stay at level 1 or whatever level.
In other
Anyway.
words, the anomalies are there to give us a clue when there's no realistic expectation or way we could have had a clue, when something is so outside of what we need to know. An anomaly comes,
Yes.
there you go. And anomalies are always gifts. Now,
Yes.
sometimes they can come in all different forms, fun, not so fun, but it doesn't matter. When it's anomalous and it's kind of like freaking your brain out, like what's going on here? How does this make sense? It can't be. That's an anomaly and that's a gift. And it's always,
Mm,
there's magic in it. There's always power in it, always something valuable. Yeah, yeah,
mm.
yeah. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. So we're about to ask Cheryl about the anomaly in her life right now. So brilliant, brilliant. We'll leave
Oh.
it there, Janelle, on
Mm.
what's that? Slide 17. Yes,
I'm sorry, what's that?
we just leave it there on slide 17.
Oh yeah, that's fine.